So next, we're gonna move on to Zach. So I think Zach said his Wi-Fi was a little spotty, so I'm going to share his screen for him.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, so can everybody see and hear me okay right now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, excellent. Okay. Hi, everyone. Just to briefly reintroduce myself, my name's Zach. I'm a junior at Naperville North High School in Naperville, Illinois. I'm actually zooming in from the library down the road from Naper Settlement and down the road from my high school, down the road from Naperville Central. I'm super grateful to have had the chance to work as an intern for CMS this summer. Truly, it was an incredible experience to get to work in public service, like for real public service. It's not often that a kid who didn't have like a driver's license a couple months ago is working on projects that will, better equity or promote diversity and inclusion and achieve like real objectives. So to me, that's just like life-changing, and I just can't express my gratitude enough. But next slide, please. Over the course of my internship this summer, my project proper centered around outreach strategies for the Asian American population here in the state of Illinois, focusing specifically on cultural events, celebrations, holidays, and other special dates. So essentially, in layman's English, I sifted through a lot of resources and I identified what the most promising outreach opportunities were. So the idea, obviously, is that we need to be reaching the demographics that most need representation in government, i.e. Asian Americans. So that is the absolutely monumental part of it. Like, how do you have an internship program like this in 10, 15 years, right? You need to have a young and capable population that wants to get involved in this type of work, right? So that's why this project itself was so important to me. And I think meant a lot to be able to work on this type of project. And this is also one of why one of the factors that I looked for in prospective partners and organizations on the ground across the state of Illinois was the ability to consistently reach these demographics. So at the end of the day, if your goal is to engage underrepresented groups into public service, you need to do two things. Number one, you need to be present, and number two, you need to be consistent, right? So my top level research question, it required me to be very creative with sort of how and where to reach certain demographic and sub-demographic groups, because importantly, in a lot of cases, there is no straightforward and there is no cookie cutter answer, and that's just how the way outreach goes. Let's go to this next slide. Here are like a few big takeaways that I sort of learned just about outreach in general and just about these kind of strategies. Number one, if nothing else, it's all about leveraging what already exists. So I think this point often gets a little muddled, but when we talk about outreach, we don't need to reinvent the wheel to conduct outreach well and bring value to partnerships. In fact, I think it's far more preferable to take wheels that we already have per se, and then just use them more effectively. So to give an example for context, in my analysis of different communities, one of the things that I noticed was most prominent was that places like churches, temples, community centers, cultural centers, advocacy groups, etc., those present the strongest opportunities for us to build trust and credibility when we assist or support different events or celebrations in places where people already frequent, right? So just the idea of just taking a lot of these events and a lot of the organizations that are already doing extremely important work on the ground, and then just doing our best from a state's perspective to support those celebrations or to support those events or to support whatever goes on. And then second, I also thought it was very imperative to ask the question of what unifies different groups of people rather than what makes them different. So another example, a lot of Pacific Islander or Southeast Asian or even Central Asian sub-demographic groups are so small to the point where we can't put together a super comprehensive outreach strategy for them. And that's like a very sort of deep-seated struggle that nobody can really find a roundabout way to get around. But instead, we can examine what is common between all these groups, right? So for instance, we just heard from two interns about the Chinatown Fair, right? Are there cultural events or celebrations like that fair, or the Hispanic Festival that just happened in Naperville a couple of weeks ago, or the India Day celebration that happened in August, right? That draw a highly diverse crowd to one place, right? Are there holidays throughout the calendar year like Diwali or Eid that bring together people from different groups based on religion? So asking these types of questions help to expand the scope and the effectiveness of our outreach efforts. And over the course of my internship, getting to sort of ask and answer those questions myself in an outreach context was extraordinarily insightful. And I hope that these are the questions that we continue to ask. And so to close, I feel that in an era of disunity and division and strife, finding common ground should always be our common commitment. And it was sort of my honor and my privilege to be able to do that as a part of my project this summer. So to finish it off, thank you to Myra, Patricia, Ms. Lee, and anyone and everyone who helped to make this happen for me and all of my fellow interns today. From all of us, it was truly, truly an honor. And I thank you very much.
So thank you, Zach. Your presentation was so informative, and I'm glad you can have some major takeaways about unity and how to achieve it.